This took a massive toll. Charged for your social media posts, you were actually locked up in prison too. Do you approve that you can put your argument based on free speech and be clear?
Not a nice place to be as an ex-prison officer. I had 3 guys beating me up as I sat in a wheelchair.
Was it a Muslim gang that targeted you?
Yes, I would say so. News coming out from Southport itself. Keir Starmer should have come out and said, look, this is what it is. This is what's happened.
One of the biggest cover-ups of our lifetime.
Pleading, I said, I am not guilty. They almost chuckled. They took all my medication off me. The excuse, listen, you're in prison. Don't care. My case cost £60,000 of taxpayers' money.
Police don't even bother to come to your house now if you are burgled.
Our politicians work for us. We have a right to know what is happening, who's coming into the country.
You are raising money for the political prisoners to support the family members. Mark Heath, I am so delighted to speak to you. We have been communicating, of course, a little bit behind the scenes. But I think it's so important that people understand that when you are targeted by the establishment, when you are targeted by the authorities for simply making posts on social media, do not give in. Do not be coerced into pleading guilty, because you approve that you can put your argument, which is based on free speech, and be cleared. But Mark, I know this took a massive toll on you, because not only were you arrested in the most horrific circumstances and charged for your social media posts, you were actually locked up in prison too.
Yeah, actually locked up in prison too, which, as you said earlier, it's really not a nice place to be as an ex-prison officer. And let me tell you, they know as well. And I was a prison officer a long, long time ago. And the people that are getting locked up for these crimes, a lot of it is racially motivated, or so the police say. So if you end up in prison on charges of intending to stir up racial hatred, as I was, and lots of other people was, most people to do with the riots were, it's a dangerous place to be in prison. And I found that out myself. I mean, I'd literally landed on the wing, and the first time we was unlocked for association, it was 10 minutes. And I had 3 guys in my cell beating me up as I sat in a wheelchair.
And can I just clarify, Mark, because this is important, Sly News has previously reported that it was Muslim prison gangs that were going to target the so-called Southport rioters, or I know you weren't a rioter, but you were someone who was accused of writing a racist Facebook post or whatever it was. Was it a Muslim gang that targeted you?
I would assume so, based on appearance and from what I knew from my time in there. Yes, I would say so, but I wouldn't be able to say that 100%.
Okay. But you believe that it was Asian men who physically attacked you?
It was definitely Asian men that physically attacked me.
So you're beaten up behind bars, and this is all because the authorities, like they've done with so many of these other poor souls, want you to plead guilty. And presumably they're saying, although I don't want to put words in your mouth, but presumably they're sort of nudging you along to the idea of, look, if you plead guilty, you'll get a lesser sentence. There's no way you're going to get off. You made these posts. Is that sort of what goes down?
100%. That's exactly how it goes down. I mean, when I got taken to the police station, you can hear the police officers talking, and whether it was intentional or not, I'm pretty sure it was. These guys are not going to get away with this. He's going to get put in prison for a long time. It's best if he pleads guilty. I took a duty solicitor when I got taken to the police station, and the first lady that came to speak to me, she had a look at my post and things like that, and straight away she said, you need to plead guilty for this because it's all there in black and white. There's no getting away from this. And I'm like, well, hold on a minute. They've charged me with intending to stir up racial hatred by means of posting or written material. I said, I didn't intend to do nothing. All I was doing was sharing my opinion on matters which most people in the UK feel the same way. You know, when you're exposed to arena bombings to London bombings
Mm-hmm.
to beheadings in the street to all these things that have gone on, and this is recent memory as well. You know, you build up a thought process of certain individuals and certain ideologies, and you have an opinion on it, and everybody's allowed to have an opinion. And I said this in court as well. You've probably got an opinion of me based on what you're trying to portray me as to this jury. I've got an opinion on you, and that's how it should be, because that's how a democracy is, and that is how freedom of speech works.
Yes,
But
and the point is, on the days surrounding the Southport riot,
yeah,
there was a lot of, I mean, I don't use the terms, by the way, Mark, disinformation and misinformation or conspiracy theories or anything like that, because I actually think they are terms that have been weaponized by the left. But let's just call it what it was. There was a lot of fake news going around. But one of the reasons that there was so much fake news, and Nigel Farage has been very clear on this, and I absolutely believe it to be the case, is because the public were not being told the truth about Axel Rudakabana, and we knew that the portrayal of him was not correct. Now, as you know, we have to be careful because we have these ludicrous contempt of court laws in this country, which means that the mainstream media are able to just hide behind the process and say, oh, we couldn't possibly report anything about Axel Rudakabana. Now, that actually isn't true. You can talk about certain aspects of his life, like I have reported the fact this week, it was actually revealed by Tommy Robinson via the independent journalist Lewis Brackpool, that Axel Rudakabana is now attending mosque at Belmarsh Prison. I mean, that is clearly a piece of information that is in the public interest that does not in any way prejudice his trial. But I guess the point that I'm making with your posts is that, sure, some of the information was wrong, but part of that is because there was a vacuum of information, which we know now to be true, given the fact that Axel Rudakabana has been charged with producing ricin and being in possession of an Al-Qaeda training manual.
it makes you sick, doesn't it? I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I got taken in by the Channel 3 in on a boat and etc. You know, and the name Al Shakati. I admit that.
Yeah,
And
it was
I
fake
admitted
news.
It's fake news, fake news. However, when mainstream media are not telling you the name of the perpetrator, things that were happening on the day, you automatically build up an assumption of what's going on. Now, the mainstream media tend to only keep news away from you to prevent you from going a certain way. You know, you've got soldiers being stabbed at barracks, and it's a mental health episode. It's everything is becoming a mental health episode at the moment. Now, people knew, because of that vacuum that you talk about, that things wasn't adding up here. So obviously people start putting their own assumptions on things, and people are allowed to have thoughts. They're allowed to think what they like, who it could be, etc., etc. But there was news coming out from Southport itself, from residents who heard certain things, who heard him say certain things as he was doing what he's alleged to have done. So that's not fake news. That's straight from the horse's mouth, and that comes from direct from those people. So yeah, and what should have happened when all this was building up and building up and building up? The mainstream media, the Keir Starmer, should have come out and said, look, this is what it is, this is what's happened, etc., etc. And it would have quashed all of that right from the start. But they didn't. They let it go I think it was 3 days before they decided, because his name was never going to get mentioned because he was 17. But because of the way things were being built up, they felt it necessary then to release details about him. But they've still omitted the fact that he is he goes to mosques. They knew that. They knew at the time when all this was happening that there was Al Qaeda material in his apartment.
Again, I'll just clarify, this isn't some sort of conspiracy to spread that. I have literally had Liz Truss, the former Prime Minister, on this show, and she has been utterly clear about the fact that Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper would have been told, possibly within hours, but definitely within days, that piece of information. Priti Patel, the former Home Secretary, has also confirmed such a fact to the Daily Telegraph. So this isn't some sort of conspiracy. And yet we had Starmer and Yvette Cooper out there in public trying to denigrate the so-called Southport rioters, or people like you who post information that may have turned out not to be true on social media, as part of the far right, as being sucked in by snake oil populism. So do you feel like they were purposefully attempting to mislead?
100%. But what they don't realise is the public, we're not stupid. They treat us all for fools. They think that they're up here on a pedestal and they know certain things, and we can't know certain things. We are not stupid. The public are not stupid. I'm not stupid. You're not stupid. And the vast majority of the UK population, and the world for that matter, are not stupid. And we know that when things are being hidden, and they're being hidden for a reason. And it's not just the fact that they have hidden his identity, or the Al Qaeda magazine material, or the ricin. There's a whole other scandal behind all of this, which I don't know about, but there's definitely something more. And Nigel Farage is talking about that. He has been open.
Well, he has said that this is one of the biggest cover-ups of our lifetime. Yeah. I have tried to, within the bounds of the law, push as hard as I can to talk about the truth here on Outspoken. I have been disgusted watching the mainstream media literally ignore this cover-up. I mean, even GB News has not spoken about the Southport cover-up once, not once. Nigel Farage has been able to write about it for the Daily Telegraph, talk about it in the Winston Marshall show podcast interview, but not one word has been uttered on GB News because they are so terrified. And this is the problem. That vacuum of information causes even more distrust. But can I just ask, Mark, because you're under huge pressure, right? You're under absolutely intense pressure. You're in jail. You're being beaten up by Asian men who may have been part of a Muslim gang. And you know by this point that you are facing potentially 20 months behind bars. I mean, there have been people who have received 20 months or more for a Facebook post. So what made you decide to fight and say, absolutely not, come what may, I'm going to plead not guilty?
I know how prison works anyway, so I know certain things that maybe other people may not know. But I think the police were a bit silly with me because they actually arrested for intending to stir up racial hatred. Now, I knew that there was no intention there at all. If they'd arrested me and charged me with posting silly, stupid messages on X, I would have gone guilty. But they didn't. And they were trying to portray me in a certain way, which just wasn't true. I'm just a Joe Public who's got strong opinions on a lot of things, and I'm not afraid to say it, as other people are not. And with regards to, I was facing a period of time in jail. My barrister, my counsel actually said to me, if this goes wrong, you're probably looking at 3-4 years because you've gone not guilty. So that won't look well in the judge's eyes. And even then, I'm like, look, I am not guilty, and I'm not pleading guilty all the way through. When I had my initial plea hearing, I was on remand in prison. It was via video link because I was in a wheelchair and I was quite poorly at the time with the whole situation. The judge who was doing the plea hearing, he asked me how I plead, and I said, I am not guilty. And they almost chuckled. I can see him like smile and kind of like, are you sure, Mr. Heath? And I'm like, yes, I'm sure. I am not guilty. And they told my counsel, why has he done that? You know, why are you not advising him what needs to be done? And I was quite clear with my counsel all the way through. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what you say, what you advise me. I am going not guilty. And bearing in mind that I live in Leicester, which is quite a diverse part of the country. It's so taking a jury in Leicester, which is where it was, my trial was held at Loughborough, it was potluck. I could have had 12 Muslim jurors come on and be my jury. And, you know, it may have worked out different for me. I was quite lucky with my jury. And, you know, so all the way through this, I was nervous, you know, but I'm a Christian boy and I pray a lot, and my victory is God's victory. And I just had a strong feeling all the way through. My wife did too, that I'm not guilty. And it was loud and clear, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. You've got to go, not guilty. So that I was steadfast all the way through. I wasn't for changing, even though various people throughout the way were making that. I mean, the police interview that I had was, they were like, I did a no comment interview, by the way. I said nothing. And I advise anybody that's going through this or it's due to come or anything like that, you stay silent, you say nothing or no comment, and you go not guilty on these sort of charges. Because if you get a sensible jury, which there are many, many sensible people in the UK, they will find you not guilty, as was the case. But all the way through, I was being coerced, and I can say that to you, and I can say it now, and I'm not bothered, because it was what it was. I'm telling the truth, that there was massive pressure on me to go guilty for a lighter sentence. You know, plead guilty, you're going to get a lighter sentence, 30-40%, all this kind of thing. But it was a no. So it was quite scary for me going guilty and knowing that if it all goes wrong for me, then my sentence would have been longer, because of the fact that I've denied it all the way through. I had a horrible judge. He was a horrid man. I was let out on bail. I was in prison for nearly 3 weeks at the start, 2 weeks, sorry, at the start of everything. And my health took such a nosedive, and I had my issues in there, that we put a bail application through. I was in a wheelchair. I was having seizures. I had 2 hospital admissions. I had 6-7 paramedic call-outs. They took all my medication off me. I have a raft of medication, morphine, all sorts of things, which they just point blank stopped as soon as I got in there. And the excuse, listen, you're in prison. Don't care. You're not having it. So I fought to get them back. I don't think if I didn't have had those health issues in prison, I wouldn't have been let out on bail. But even when I was let out, I was tagged. I had my passport taken from me because I'm going to be flying off somewhere with in a wheelchair. I had that taken off me. I had a curfew from 7 till 7. So the effect it had not only on me, but my family was immense. So I'm fully aware what other families are going through right now, because there's people that still got to go to trial yet.
This is lawfare.
I know.
It's lawfare, pure and simple. First, though, hot flashes, sleepless nights, weight gain, joint pain. I know a lot of you are dealing with or have dealt with these symptoms, especially the women in the Outspoken family. Now, obviously, I haven't experienced menopause firsthand. That would be odd, but I have heard from many of you about the challenges that come with it. So I'm coming to you with some good news. By now, most of you have heard me talk about Verso. I've been taking their products for months. It's been transformative for me. But today I want to focus on all of you amazing women out there, especially those dealing with menopause or perimenopause. I've heard from so many of you about how tough this phase of life can be. Well, Cellbeing by Verso is designed to target those symptoms head on by addressing the root cause. It's formulated with ingredients that are proven to increase NAD+ levels in the body. That's huge, because NAD+ is what keeps your cells healthy and energized. But it drops off as we age, and especially during menopause. Here's the thing, boosting NAD+ can make a big difference in how you feel. Women who've taken Cellbeing are reporting some pretty amazing changes. Hot flashes disappearing, more energy, joint pain, relief, weight loss, and mental clarity. I've even heard from some listeners who've told me their periods have come back or have become regulated, and they feel like they've turned back the clock on aging. The ingredients in Cellbeing have shown to balance hormones without going the traditional hormone therapy route. It also helps with inflammation and metabolism, which is especially helpful for managing weight and keeping you feeling your best. Plus, these research-backed ingredients have been shown to improve bone health, which is crucial for postmenopausal women at risk of osteoporosis. Now, what I love about Cellbeing, and I think you will too, is that it doesn't just mask the symptoms of menopause, it tackles the root causes of aging, helping you feel stronger, healthier, and more energized from the inside out. So if you haven't tried it yet and you're ready to take control of your health and feel more like yourself, click on the link in the description on YouTube and Rumble, or head on over to buy.ver.so and use the coupon code Outspoken at checkout to save 15% on your first order. So if you're tired of the sleepless nights, the hot flashes, or just feeling off, Give Selvine a try. It's already helped so many of you, and I'm confident it can help even more to feel better too. So I'm just going to repeat the address once more: www.buy.ver.so/outspoken, and use the coupon code outspoken. So let me bring back Mark Heath now, who knows all about this. He was found not guilty, of course, after the Southport Massacre Cover Up, of posting on social media. So, Mark, I'd love to get your response to the fact that Alison Pearson has been cleared, but perhaps more specifically to the fact that Essex Police thought it was worth sending this case to the Crown Prosecution Service in the first place. How on earth can we ever trust a force like that again?
Well, we can't, and we can't trust any force. They're doing this to people up and down the country. And it's great news, by the way. It should never have been a thing anyway. It's ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. Half the people that are currently in prison shouldn't be there. It shouldn't have even been a thing. I shouldn't have been there. And this is happening, and it's becoming the norm for the authorities now. This is now a thing. And Keir Starmer came on the telly a couple of days ago, and he basically said, "Look, the police should be concentrating on solving serious crime instead of locking people up for tweets." We hear you, Keir. We hear you, Keir. That to me is absolute bosh. That's him. That's him with his smokescreen write-up. But Alison Pearson, 100%. That's great news. Should never have been a thing anyway. And this is the norm now. This is the country that we live in. And unless people like myself, the people that are prepared to speak and challenge these, can you imagine if all the people that got arrested in relation to Southport all pled not guilty, how much it would cost these forces up and down the country? My case cost £60,000 of taxpayers' money.
When I'm sorry, like, it's not just about the paedophiles and the women beaters who are not spending a day behind bars. It's about the fact that police don't even bother to come to your house now if you are burgled. And it's interesting, actually, because I think there's a lot of parallels between your case and what happened with Alison Pearson. Okay, she was all about the pro-Hamas riots. You were all about the Southport Massacre cover-up. But when Alison was on the show for an in-depth interview about this just a few days ago, we talked about the parallels. So let's have a little watch of this, and then I'll get you to react off the back, Mark.
That this individual was allegedly making a bioweapon in their kitchen. That information is going to go straight to the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister, and to the security services. So it's extremely serious. And I think the idea is, let's not give these plebs a reason to kick off. But in fact, what happened was that backfired, and then people got very upset and angry. And I would say that the alleged murder of 3 beautiful little girls was a cause to get upset and to be very angry, and to wonder what manner of person is this that's living in our country who carries out this barbaric slaughter. But as we know from my visit from the police expressing any of this, I mean, who knows, they can call anything racism, Dan.
Yes,
even if you're...
And the tentacles, though, Alison, what really concerns me is they run so deep. So, Mark Heath, so many parallels. And what's so concerning to me is the way these cases are being used. Because your case, and Lucy Connolly's case, and Julie Sweeney's case, that's about sending a message to the public or to citizen journalists. Shut up. Don't talk about these issues at all. Certainly don't post something on Facebook or on X, but potentially even be worried to send a message to your mates in a WhatsApp group. So that's the message to you. Then I believe the Alison Pearson case is all about sending a message to journalists, to columnists. And it's saying, you're not safe either. You might think you're protected because we live in a free society and you're a journalist, but you're not safe either. We can come for you too. And let me tell you, Mark, it isn't just good, honest, ordinary folk who are now too scared to post on X. I have genuinely spoken to a lot of contemporaries, so journalists or high-profile commentators or politicians who tend to question the narrative, and they are now scared after Alison Pearson have been locked up.
Yeah, and that's all it is. It's intended to scare. It's intended to silence. It's intended to give us not a voice. But let's get one thing straight. We, as the public, as UK citizens, have a right to know what is going on with the country. Our politicians work for us. They work for us. We have a right to know what is happening, who's coming into the country. You know, things that are being uncovered. What's happening up and down, from top to bottom. Who's coming in on the boats? Because, you know, Robert Jenrick, when he was a minister, he's come out in public and said that people that were coming in on the boats have been linked to ISIS and Al Qaeda, and they were still let in the country. People are not stupid. People can see these dumping of immigrants in hotels. They only see fighting age males. There are no women. There are no children. None. We're not stupid. We have a right to know, and we have a right to speak. This is not Russia. This is not North Korea. This is the United Kingdom. And if we lose that right to free speech, then what have we got? What have we got? Seriously.
I agree. I could not agree more, but it's gone. And that's why I think the intervention from Elon Musk is so important today, because all of these jokers, you know, the likes of Emily Maitlis and John Sopel and Lewis Goodall, who, let's just be honest about it, Mark, they look down their nose at people like me and people like you. They're all going to be swept away. Think of where this country is going to be by 2029. Now, you say you're a Reform UK voter. Do you feel like that's the political force? Do you feel like Reform UK have been on the side of people like you?
I think they're best positioned. You've got UKIP as well. You know, things that are coming from there. It sounds good. Tinconi, I think his name is. But
Nick Tinconi, yes, the new leader.
Nick Tinconi, sorry. But Reform are the best place to do something, and to do it soon. The way the general public are thinking at the moment, Tories, they're gone. Nobody's going to trust them for a while now, and people are quite right. This Labour government, it has been probably the most disastrous start to a term you can ever have. They're lying about this black hole, this imaginary black hole, which I don't believe exists. And let's just clarify one thing as well. When Tories took over from Labour 14, 15 years ago, there was a 258 billion pound black hole, and they have the nerve to talk about a 22 imaginary black hole, by the way. They're gone. They're mustard. I honestly believe that they're out. So
you agree with Elon Musk that the 100%. Tories are gone too?
And do you know what? I love the fact that Elon Musk is commentating on what's happening on the UK, because it's bringing a spotlight to things. And you know, and that's the main thing. It's bringing a spotlight. So politicians and Keir Starmer, they have to be a little bit careful about how they do things, because the world is watching. But yes, I do think Reform are best placed to do something. I mean, what's the alternative? Seriously, what's the alternative?
No, well, look, I just am so happy for Alison Pearson. I just have to say, Alison Pearson is such a good person. She is such a good human being. She's been through hell. And when I was going through my hell as a result of lawfare and lies last year, Alison Pearson was one of those people who was there for me every single step of the way. So she has come out of this stronger. Her voice is now elevated. She is going to be a much more powerful beacon of free speech in the UK. And this is the problem. Lawfare sometimes backfires, and our authorities need to realise that. But there is growing concern that the so-called rioters or the social media posters after the Southport Massacre Cover Up have been coerced into pleading guilty. Mark Heath wrote about one of these cases which has captured the attention of the world, including Elon Musk. He wrote, Cameron Bell and her boyfriend Kyle Barber were both arrested and, more importantly, both coerced into pleading guilty. I am in contact with the family. They are going through hell. I am hoping to get permission to share their story, but what I've been told up until now is shocking. I will update in due course. So, Mark Heath, just before you go into exactly what you can on this story, I want to remind people about Cameron Bell, because I was one of the people who, thank goodness, helped bring the attention of Elon Musk to this case, because it is so appalling. She is a 23-year-old young lady who was working as a care worker. On the way home, she witnessed some of this unrest and streamed it to the social media platform TikTok, just like a citizen journalist would do. She didn't encourage any violence. She wasn't involved in any violence. And the most despicable thing is that this young lady lost her job as a care worker because when she was arrested, she was remanded in custody. She has been locked up now for months. And as a result, her 9-month sentence will, obviously, the time that she's already spent behind bars, that will count to her 9-month sentence. But Mark Heath, I know you know more about this case than anyone, so can you share what you know?
So the good news is Cameron will be out on Monday next week. That's when she's due to come out.
Because she served her time because they remanded her in custody, is that right?
They remanded her straight away. She was told to plead guilty. I haven't spoken to her directly. I've been speaking to her parent. And when I say her parent, I have to clear this up because this is shocking in itself, that she lives with Kyle. So Kyle's her boyfriend, Kyle Barber, who is in prison as well. His trial is in January of next year. And she lives with his mum and him, and has done for the last 8 years. She considers her to be her mum, and vice versa, daughter, etc. So yeah, Cameron's due out on Monday. I'm going to speak to her on Monday, all being well. But yeah, back to the start. What world do we live in when, you know, things are going on in the UK and you're on your way home from work after caring, and my wife's a carer and I know how hard a job it is. You know,
we don't have many good, honest English folk, by the way, who want to do that job.
We don't. No, we don't. And she's on her way home, and everything's erupted. And they live in Southport. So they don't live in Southport, in Tamworth, sorry. And she's on her way home, and she's like, "Wow, look at this."
Yeah, because Tamworth, people will remember, was one of the worst sort of scenes of protests after what happened.
It was, yeah. And just as a live stream that TikTok, I think that the only thing that she did that was any kind of bad was she called immigrants tramps, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But who gets locked up for calling somebody a tramp?
Well, exactly. Some people might think it's not very nice. I cannot see how it's illegal.
No, no. So she's arrested. She was told to plead guilty. I'm not actually honestly sure when people are being told to plead guilty, are they being told as well? And this is what I need to clarify with her when I speak to her, because her mum was unclear with this. Is, are they telling them that you'll be bailed, you know, and then go from there, or because they can't surely be saying plead guilty, you'll get remanded in custody for a while. But then you'll get a lesser sentence. That can't be the case. So I do need to clarify that. So she's been told to plead guilty. She's now done her time. Now, for the grace of God, she's actually been okay in there. From what I'm told, she's actually done okay. She's looked after herself. She's been looked after. She's a good girl.
Thank God.
She works hard, and she hasn't had too bad of an experience of it, and she's super chuffed to be coming out on Monday. So all being well, I'll get to speak to her, and I'll be able to share more, and maybe point in your direction, Dan, so you can have a chat with her as well.
Yes, please. We'll look, and if you're going to speak to her, I'd love to hear exactly what you get from that on Monday, because her case is so appalling. It is so shocking. I mean, here's a care worker whose whole life has been turned upside down. She might never recover from this psychologically. I mean, I pray that she does, and I pray that there is a turnaround. But again, I believe she has been a political prisoner. But then also, Mark, we have the case of Daffron Williams, which again is just so upsetting. Here's a guy who served his country in Iraq and Afghanistan, is suffering from PTSD. His lawyer, John Allchurch, told the Cardiff Crown Court this defendant is a man who has served his country in the most difficult and trying circumstances, which has resulted in him suffering an ongoing mental disorder. And again, just like you, he posted on Facebook. He said he'd been to a Tommy Robinson march and that Tommy Robinson was a hero of his. And he is locked up for a long time by a female judge who has allowed a paedophile to walk free.
Yeah. His case is actually very similar to mine. He was charged with exactly the same thing, with intending to stir up racial hatred. I'm certain that if he'd have pleaded not guilty, that he'll be at home. I'm certain of that. So, you know, who's advising these people? I am 99.9% certain that there is a story to tell here. There is a scandal. I do think people have been coerced. I do think people have been pressured, because other than myself, I only think there's me and there's one other guy that's got a trial next year that have actually pleaded not guilty.
And sorry, Mark, you just finished your point.
It's absolutely crazy. And because his posts were no different to mine, they were tamer, some of them. I mean, my case, there was 60 plus posts they had of mine, where this picture that they were painting of me, which built up and built up and built up and built up.
Yes, because that's what they try and do, isn't it? They try and say, oh, this is this is a bad guy. He's on the far right, whatever that means. But the thing is, these decisions, look, this is such a serious thing, Mark, because these decisions, or as you put it, the coercion of some of these folk to plead guilty is, well, it's becoming deadly for some people. Dangerous. Peter Lynch, who, as far as I'm concerned, was a good man. I've looked at his previous protests. This is someone who campaigned for Brexit for a very, very long time. You can see his sign there. He believed in a lot of corruption. He believed in the deep state. These are the types of things that the mainstream media or people in the establishment dismiss quite crudely as a conspiracy theory. So he's branded a conspiracy theorist fundamentally. But actually, he was a patriot who was very much all about controlling our borders and politicians fulfilling the will of the people. Two things that I absolutely agree with. He is locked up for, again, a sickening amount of time and is found dead in prison. Now, given what you told me earlier about your targeting by Asian men in prison who beat you up within hours of you being there, I shudder to think what Peter Lynch was going through. And can I just clarify again, while he was physically at the scene, right, of some of this unrest, he was not violent. In fact, there were occasions where the police were quite violent to him. Now, I'm also not criticizing the police, by the way, but I saw nothing to suggest that he should be locked up. Again, there were a few unsavory comments. I can't remember the exact words that he used, but he certainly made some comments about immigrants. But Peter Lynch is dead as a result of that decision to plead guilty.
This is the saddest case out of all of them.
It really is.
Somebody's lost their life because our government want to play with our lives. They want to silence us. They want us to stop, you know, having an opinion or having the right to protest. He was protesting. He wasn't rioting. And you're quite right. He wasn't violent. He stood there with a placard. Now, if everybody gets locked up for saying Foxtrot Oscar at officers, then there'd be nobody here. You know, we'd all be in prison. This guy paid the ultimate price. He paid with his life. He was described in The Guardian as a despicable example of a grandfather. You know, is he? Or is he somebody that wants to look after the next generation of our society, our children, that is prepared to ask the question, is prepared to go out into the street and protest and say, who have we got living here? Who have we got coming into our land? Who have we got that's butchering our children? Does that make him a despicable grandfather? Because to me, that makes him a hero. It's his funeral next week. And my heart goes out to his family. I've been trying to find out who his family are so I can get in contact with them as part of my fundraising to see if I can do anything to help them. He's the one person that I really wanted. His family was really wanted to talk
because
to.
He
because
has children, he has grandchildren.
He does. And this is the saddest case for me. And this is the one that makes me the most angry as well. Somebody's paid for that. Who are we to know what went on with him whilst he was in prison? You know, and even if he wasn't getting targeted as such, you know, he's in there for standing there with a placard and saying,
and my heart absolutely breaks for his wife. I mean, because so Peter's from Rotherham. Now, again, if you're from Rotherham, you're in an area where actually you have seen some truly despicable crimes, which we won't go into today, but I have spoken about in detail before. So who knows what Peter was aware of in Rotherham, but that's a side point. This is a guy who had been married, Mark, for 36 years, had 4 adult children, 3 grandchildren. They have lost that great man as a result. He had worked in the packing industry, a good solid living, but he had been made redundant quite recently as well. So you just think that whole guy's life turned upside down after 61 years at a time when his country should be looking after him. And it's heartbreaking. So I do want to talk about your Just Giving page because you are raising money for the political prisoners, Mark, and specifically also, as you say, to support the family members, the wives, the husbands, actually, in some cases. That's the crazy thing, because it's not just men who've been locked up. Look at Julie Sweeney, look at Lucy Connolly. So the husbands, in some cases, who are living through hell, actually. So I will post this Just Giving page on my own X account, but it's also on yours too.
I appreciate that, Dan. There's not a lot we can do for the people that are in prison. They've pleaded guilty. There's not an awful lot way out for that. But I know from what my wife's told me about what she's gone through. My son, I've got a 9-year-old son. You know, it's affected him really badly. So what I'm trying to do is raise a bit of money. Cameron's going to get some of this as well when she comes out, just to try and get her back on her feet. You know, she's lost her job. I know that, you know, speaking to her mother, they're getting a lot of hate. You know, she's going to be going back into a community where some people are going to see her as you know, a martyr, if you like. I don't like that word.
This is where the community has to come together. The family has to come together. Let's look after Cameron Bell. Let's try and get her a new job. You know,
please,
all of this is powerful, and that's why I'm so grateful for what you're doing, Mark, and such a fascinating insight. But look, stand by, because I want to end the show today with something a little bit lighter. Can you believe that as a result of Donald Trump's victory, we're now getting the loathsome liberals from the United States? I'll tell you, the big name A-list celebrity who has permanently quit the US for the UK as a result of the Donald's election. Can you believe it? We are now receiving the loathsome liberals in the UK who are clearing off in a massive strop from the US of A as a result of Donald Trump's election. Most of these folk only threaten to leave, by the way, but some of the A-listers are, for now at least, deciding that London and the United Kingdom is some sort of haven. Let me tell you, I've got no idea what's going here, but I'll bring you the story of who is going first. It's reported by TMZ. And brilliant headline, actually. We're leaving this Trump dump. So Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi have bid adieu to the United States, and Donald Trump's election win was the driving force. Sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ Ellen and Portia have settled in a new home in the Cotswolds, a region in southwest England about 2 hours from London. We're told the couple scooped up the place before the election, but were very disillusioned with Trump's victory and immediately decided to get the hell out. Ellen, who's a multimillionaire, donated $3,300 to Kamala Harris, so she was hardly backing her too much. And she also wrote at the time, "There's nothing more powerful than a woman whose time has come. I can't wait for Kamala Harris to be our next president." Now, I want to show you their house in Montecito, California, right? Because as much as it's nice in the Cotswolds, would Donald Trump really make you leave that $96 million property? But leave they have. And they've already been pictured, actually, Ellen and Portia celebrating with celebrities like The Cause and Natalie Imbruglia at Jeremy Clarkson's new pub. So, we now have to accept these awful woke-topian celebrities, but Aaron Branks, the bad boy of Brexit, posted on X in response to this news, "Go back home." And Mark Heath, my guest today, wrote, "Does anyone have a nice welcome message for our new patriot?" So, Mark, do I presume that you're not exactly over the moon about the arrival of Trump-hating, multi-millionaire champagne socialist lefties Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi?
I'm delighted. I put that post up, and they got a lot of love. Let's put it that way. They got a lot of love. Do I want them here now? If we can swap places, that would be good. If I can go the other way and put all them here, and we'll go and live in America for the next 4 years, I think it'd be a great swap. But if they think they've come here for a better life, think again.
How deluded could they be? I mean, do they have any idea? I saw Dave Rubin posting earlier, okay, yeah, let's just see what the pro-Hamas protesters think about the lesbians in London, right? And it's true.
Somebody commented, the BBC have probably got her lined up to take over on Match of the Day, which I thought was quite funny.
But look, I do find it absolutely fascinating, though, because most celebrities just make these idle threats, don't they? Very few actually go through with it. But this is something I do really find sort of horrendously hypocritical about the left, Mark. They were all of the ones that were going on for so long about Donald Trump trying to subvert democracy and the importance of believing in democracy. But actually, it's them that doesn't believe in democracy, right? Because as soon as their compatriots made an overwhelming Democrat decision, they say, we're out. We're leaving the Trump dump.
This is the way they work, isn't it? This is the way the left work. The left are the problem. That right-minded people know what the problem is, and the left are it. But yeah, you're quite right. You know, they champion democracy and all this, and Trump's this and Trump's that, and he was never going to win. I'm actually quite pleased that he's won. I quite like Donald Trump quite a lot, actually. We could do with a Donald Trump here, but not at the expense of sending Ellen DeGeneres and her partner with here.
No,
Thank you very much.
Indeed. Well, look, Mark Heath, it has been such a pleasure to have you on Outspoken today. Thank you for all of the brilliant work that you are doing on behalf of the UK's political prisoners. And I'm already getting messages, actually. So we'll talk about this privately, but I'm already getting messages from incredible members of the Outspoken family who are saying, let's get Cameron Bell a job. Where does she, want to work location-wise? So we'll keep talking about this, because I think it's very, very important that these people who have clearly been wrongfully imprisoned do not have their lives destroyed, and that is in our power. So let's keep that conversation going, Mark.
Yeah, I second that. Everybody's got their part to play. If you feel aggrieved like I do, then if you're in the communities of these people when they come back out, help them. help them as best as you can. I've got a fundraising page. If you give me a follow, it's all over my page. If you can give a couple of quid, it will go a long way. Thanks for having me on, Dan. Thanks for putting a bit of focus on this. I do appreciate it, and thank you everybody else.
Yeah, and just a reminder, there is Mark's X page at Mark Heath 45, where you can find all the details about his crowdfunding campaign for the UK's political prisoners. Mark Heath, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.